The work breakdown structure. You might be wondering, what is the definition of the work breakdown structure? The work breakdown structure, or WBS, is all the tasks that must be done to complete a project's deliverables. Tasks are arranged in a hierarchy of broader categories of work down to specific work tasks. This graph is taken from the textbook. It shows how the compliance project is broken down from larger to smaller specifications of jobs. The first breakdown is into the major jobs that must be done. Achieving compliance in each of the 5 operational areas of Golden Years Elder Care Center. There are 4 operational areas shown here. Not shown in this graphic, but shown in the textbook, is the 5th operational area and 2 other major jobs that all projects require: project planning and project administration. The graphic illustrates how larger projects are broken down into the smaller jobs needed to accomplish them. The breakdown sequence that goes from 1.0 to 1.3.2.1 and the sequence that goes from 3.0 to 3.3.2.1 illustrate the successive breaking down of work into smaller and smaller jobs. The breakdown arrangement in the graphic also illustrates something about the structure of the work breakdown structures. The breakdown is similar to an organizational chart. Not all breakdown structures will look like this, but the structure of a work breakdown can be used to map out the authority structure for the projects as well. Another thing to know is the structure of numbers used to identify various tasks. They form kind of an outline of the project. This kind of numbering system is used by project management software to help keep track of higher order to lower order jobs. The numbering system also facilitates communication about the project. It is really difficult to overestimate the importance of the work breakdown structure. It lays the foundation for almost all aspects of a project. The WBS is the operational definition of what work needs to be done on a project. It is very important to make sure all the work that needs to be done on a project is accounted for in the WBS. It also provides the foundation of all project estimates, including time, cost, and resource requirements. Only after all the jobs needed to do a project are specified can estimates of time, cost, and resources be produced. Finally, it helps with the project's organizational structure. Especially, it deals with how tasks relate to one another, including the authority structure. Project deliverables drive the work breakdown process. All work in the project is aimed at producing these deliverables. Focus is given here to the core tasks, those jobs that are needed to produce deliverables for the client. Later, we will include support tasks. The process starts by clearly specifying the deliverables contracted for by the project. These deliverables, operational objectives of the project, and once produced, the project's goals are complete. There is no one way to conduct a work breakdown, but a good approach is to think about the major jobs that need to be done to produce the deliverable. The major jobs that need to be done to produce the deliverable are often complex and involved themselves. To get a handle on what exactly needs to be done, larger jobs often have to be broken down into smaller ones needed to accomplish them. Continue until tasks can provide all the detail needed for resource, time, cost, and risk estimates. The process of breaking down larger jobs into smaller jobs, and those smaller jobs into still smaller tasks that are needed to achieve them, continues until the project leader knows what is needed to accomplish the smallest level task, and whoever is to work on the task will know what it is required to be produced. In very large and complex projects, the chain of larger to smaller jobs will be quite long. The biggest risk in creating a work breakdown structure is missing work that needs to be done. That work will need to be done sometime, and it needs to be specified beforehand. In addition to the project leader, reviewing the WBS is a good idea to have others overlook it as well. Enlist the aid of others, those who have worked on similar projects. Project leaders and team members who have worked on similar projects are an excellent source of information in specifying the work that needs to be done. People who specialize in producing the products or services to be done in the project can also be a good source of advice, including technical specialists, consultants, and the like. Future members of the project team can be a good source of information, especially if they have worked on similar projects before. They are usually motivated to think very carefully about the work they will do. Project leaders should also encourage constructive criticism of the WBS. The emphasis here is on the word constructive. Challenges to the WBS that overlooked project work. Revisit the WBS often. A fact of life is that work is often overlooked even when a great deal of time is given to the effort of doing the work. As the project moves forward, project leaders should re-examine the upcoming work needs and compare them with the planned scope of work. The purpose behind this slide is to emphasize that projects need support work in addition to the work done to produce the deliverables for the client. Core tasks are all the tasks needed to produce client deliverables. Core tasks get the most attention because they are oriented to producing deliverables for the client. Even given this attention, as stated above, some core tasks are often overlooked. Support tasks are the most commonly overlooked kind of task. Support tasks include all the work that goes on to support the core work of the project. There are two main areas: project planning and project administration. A lot of project planning is often done before the client signs on to a project. Project initiation, discussed in Chapter 2, is designed to minimize the planning costs prior to commitment. Project administration includes all support activities that usually take place once a project has been launched. All the paperwork associated with a project is a support activity, such as record keeping and internal reporting. Communications, such as team and client meetings, can also take up a great deal of project time. Control activities associated with supervision take time, such as tracking the project's cost and developing workers. Support activities are commonly overlooked, but they will command attention sometime, and they really cannot be avoided. It's best to consider them in the planning to make sure the time to do them is considered and the costs are associated with them, and distribute it in a deliberate way. There are two general approaches for estimating anything on a project. This slide covers the top-down method. The next slide covers the bottom-up method. The top-down method makes the estimation based on a similar project. The top-down method reaches out to similar projects and uses them to help in the estimate made for the present project. Of course, the key here is just how similar the other projects are to the present one. One needs to consider not just the overall picture of other similar projects, but the similarity of their components as well. No matter how similar the other projects are, adjustments need to be made. There are a lot of things to consider, such as inflation, seasonal differences, and labor markets. As the number of adjustments need to go up, confidence in the usability of other projects for estimations tend to go down. There are two principal advantages to top-down estimating. First is the benefit from hindsight. All of those things overlooked in the planning of previous projects have shown up once they are done. This can be of real value so that similar mistakes are not made in the present project. A second advantage is that they are relatively quick and easy. The principal advantage of top-down approach is that it can offer a quick estimate. We also have a couple disadvantages. First is the lack of precision. Unless the estimate examines each component of previous projects and then makes appropriate adjustments, the estimates are usually considered to be ballpark. Another advantage is that we can overlook important components of a current project. Because each project is unique, similar projects are just that, similar and not the same as the current project. Let's talk about the bottom-up method. The bottom-up method produces estimates for each component of the task. Once these estimates for each task are complete, they can be aggregated by a project component and for the project as a whole. The key here is to make sure all tasks that will affect the project's the first advantage is precision. The precision comes from being able to identify all resource, time, and cost elements for each task. Again, overlooked tasks can be undercut in this precision. Let's talk about the second advantage. Project leaders need to have a clear handle on time, resource, and cost of each project component so they can be put into the planned budget. Bottom-up estimation facilitates this process in a more precise way. The first disadvantage is the bottom-up estimation takes a fair amount of time to do correctly. Again, costs are likely to be overlooked for at least two reasons. First is projects are unique and always carry unknown elements. Project leaders and others who specify projects often overlook elements simply because of human error. The next two slides focus on a few resources and cost categories. These are by no means the only cost categories to consider. They do represent a large percentage of total resources and cost elements. The project team is the most important human resource in the project. Care must be taken so that they have the knowledge, skills, and abilities to do the technical work required. Some attention should also be given to the skills and knowledge needed to work in a team and to be self-motivated. Project leaders also need to allocate their time among project tasks. Leaders will play important and time-consuming roles in planning, project administration, and the day-to-day interactions with the team. Leaders will also be called on to play an important role with stakeholders outside the project team itself. Project leaders can be overwhelmed rather quickly with such demands, and it is in the interest of the project to anticipate and plan for them. The re-emphasis of the need to assess the knowledge, skills, and abilities of all participants in a project is really important. Quite often, project participants have other commitments or are allocated to a project for only a specific period of time. Logistics, or the flow of equipment and resources to workers, is too often overlooked with negative consequences. Special attention needs to be given to any material or equipment that is difficult to schedule or produce. The flow of equipment and materials to workers when they are needed is a mission-critical task of the project leader. Unfortunately, it is not often given attention that it deserves. Office equipment, workspace, and supplies are often resources that are overlooked. Because projects are novel and unique, information about any aspect of the project, technical to leadership, is a prized resource and should be pursued. Because projects often cross organizational and inter-organizational boundaries, authority to conduct operations is often a resource needed. Project leaders are often given a specific amount of time to complete a project. All project activities are then required to fit within that time frame. Project leaders need to convey the restrictions, if any, that an imposed time frame can have on the workspace. Even with an imposed top-down mandated time frame, project leaders need to do their own bottom-up estimates of the tasks required to produce the deliverables. They will need these estimates for their own time budgets and for a realistic view of what can and cannot be accomplished. Time estimates always bring risks, and it is best to think through the most optimistic estimates for the project components as well as best guesses. This might be a good time to caution about lag times that a task may require. Lag times can produce problems in project planning. Lag time is the time a task outcome takes to be complete after work on it has finished. A common household example is the time water takes to boil after all preparations have been made. The cost estimates for each task will be aggregated for the overall budget. How the budget will be spent on project components through the project's execution. It is easy to overlook cost items. Some examples of commonly overlooked items include time value of money, travel, communications, fees, and overhead charges. Because projects are novel and unique, cost estimates are extremely risky. One rule of thumb for adjusting cost for risk is to add a certain percentage to the best estimate. That estimate is often 5 to 10%. If there is a reason to believe the risk will be greater, the risk adjustments may go up. Cost of operations plus a profit percentage or amount is appropriate. The work breakdown structure provides the foundation for the project's organizational structure. The word structure in work breakdown structure points to the fact that projects require a structure just like any other organization. The project structure should reflect the nature of project work that has been structured with certain things in mind. We know that some tasks are dependent on others to be done before they can begin. This issue of dependency is covered more in scheduling in the next chapter. Those task dependencies will largely dictate the various phases of a project and its schedule. Task arrangements from small to larger job clusters provide authority structure. The final slide shows how project tasks can be arranged in phases and authority delegated to them. The slide builds on Figure 3.1 in the textbook and on the figure given at the beginning of this presentation. Phase 1 is the educational phase, where the project teams inform themselves about what needs to be done. Phase 2, the politics and procedures development phase, is where policies and procedures are developed to attain and maintain compliance. The flow of authority is illustrated by the blue arrow. It includes all work done under the major division of 1.0, which is administration. The flow of authority is likely to be arranged in a similar manner for 2.0 through 4.0, and the rest of the project is not shown on the slide. Whoever is in charge of the compliance project is the project leader for the whole project. In this example, Linda is the project leader and the lead for 1.0, the administration. She handles it on a day-to-day basis in her capacity as clinical director. Linda is also likely to be the lead for 6.0, project planning, and 7.0, project administration.